بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي وعنه يعني وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم تعس عبد الدينار وعبد الدرهم وعبد الخميصة إن أعطي رضي وإن لم يعطى سخط تعس وانتكس وإذا شيك فلن تقش طوبى لعبد آخذ بعنان فرسه في سبيل الله أشعث رأسه مغبرة قدماه إن كان في الحراسة كان في الحراسة وإن كان في الساقة كان في الساقة إن استأذن لم يؤذن له وإن شفع لم يشفع رواه البخاري. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anh, he narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said the slave of dinar, dinar is gold, and the slave of dirham, dirham is silver, the slave of gold and silver, and the slave of khamisa. Khamisa has different interpretations. One is fancy clothing. They have perished. Ta'isa. What is a slave? A slave is somebody who is in the control of someone else, right? So if a person says Abdullah, it should be more than a name. The person, their every action should be dictated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because they're the slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So a person who's a slave of gold and silver, of dirham, of dinar, you could add in dollars. If a person is a slave of that, every action of theirs is dictated by money. How will I get more? So these two things that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, this is an internal state. The person, everything that they do is motivated by a person like this, they've perished. Right? They're not living the function of what they were created for. Wa abdul khamisa, and the one who is a slave of fancy clothing. Now fancy clothing, this is an external sign. It's a symptom of somebody loving the dunya. However, if their heart is not, obsessed with it, there's no harm. For example, Imam Malik rahmatullahi alayh, he used to always wear good clothing. Why? Because he didn't want to borrow from anybody. He didn't want anyone to think that he's in need. Our teachers, they always tell us nowadays, make sure you keep your beard nice. Make sure your clothing is nice, it's ironed, it's this, it's that. Why? So that people don't associate deen and look at it in a bad way. So it depends on intention. Like mashallah, like every imam, they'll never have a shortage of few things. They'll never have a shortage of jani mazis. They'll never have a shortage of tasbih. They'll never have a shortage of kajur, dates, zamzam, and topes, right? Anytime anybody goes to Hajj, Umrah, it's so common these days, mashallah, bring back one of those things for us, right? So you might see like imams are always wearing nice clothes. They care about it. They have it. They wear it. Wear it a few times, give it to somebody else. Right? But if a person's life is dictated by that, they say, the poem, it's not on my tongue. Sabse, fashion ho, something tip top ho, sabse ho nirala, ye kyun isiliye jeete hai ye marne wala, right? Ye dunya jagane, ye dunya jaga, ji dunya nahi hai, ye ibrat ki jahe, tamasha nahi hai. Our life shouldn't be like that, right? So ta'isa abdul dinari wa abdul dirhami wa abdul khamisa in u'tiya radiya. If the person is given money, they're happy. If the person is given something, they're happy. Everything that they do is dictated. Every interaction that they have is dictated by what can I get out of this. That's not the right attitude. وَإِن لَمْ يُعْتَ سَخِطًا. If they're not given, they become upset. Ta'isa, this person has perished. وَانْتَكَسَ, and they're disgraced. People like this, nobody respects them. What they will do is they'll be nice to save themselves from their shar, to save themselves from the harm that this person can cause. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says about this person, وَإِذَا شِيكَ فَلَن تُقِشَ. Even if this type of person is pricked by a thorn, don't help them. Meaning sometimes a person who's very dunyadar. We think that this person is very successful, and this person, we should always be concerned about them. Rasulullah ﷺ says, even if the smallest thing happens to them, don't help them out. Because this is a person who has nothing to do with Allah and His Rasul ﷺ. And it's not about being rich. A rich person can be completely focused on the akhirah. Several of the Ashara Mubashara, Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, Abdul Rahman bin Auf radiallahu anh, Sa'ad bin Abi Waqas radiallahu anh, Usman radiallahu anh, they're extremely wealthy people. But they weren't obsessed with the dunya. They weren't dunyadar people. And somebody who's poor can be dunyadar. A person who doesn't have much but they're obsessed with, with dunya, they could be the most dunyawi person, right? In one hadith, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam describes 4 types of people. He said that there's a rich person who does good things with their wealth. And then there's a rich person who does bad things with their wealth. There's a poor person who wishes that they could do good with their wealth, and there's a poor person who wishes that they could do bad with their wealth. Haram. Which is the worst out of all of these? Poor without wealth. You would think that it would be the rich person who's doing bad things. The poor person without wealth is even worse because he has no reason to want to do bad. But he wants to engage in the dunya and he's like, if only I could, right? So even if a person is poor, they can be dunya minded. Now Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Tuba li'abdin akhidin bi'inani farasihi fi sabilillah." Glad tidings be to the slave, the servant, who grabs the reins of his horse in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's path. Ash'atha ra'suhu. Their hair is disheveled. Mughabbaratun qadamahu. Their feet are dirty. In kana fil hirasa, kana fil hirasa. If he's put on guard, his job is to guard, he's guarding. When kana fis saqa, if he's put at the back of the army, kana fis saqa. He's in the back of the army. What this means is this person is willing to fulfill whatever role that they need for this deen, regardless of how it may look for them. If they're told to do the most, front-facing job, say, okay, I got to do it. And if they're sidelined, if they're put in the back, they're willing to do that as well. There was one tabi'i. For 40 years, he used to always be in the front row, takbir-ula, for salat. One day, what happened is he ran a little bit late. He wasn't there for takbir-ula. He came in the first rakat, but he became embarrassed. And he said that people will think, how come I wasn't here for takbir-ula? Probably nobody would even notice that. But he had in his mind, so he left. He didn't pray in Jamaat that day. And then he realized the past, 30, 40 years, I've just been doing this to show off. So he redid all of his salats for that year. That's not the fiqhi masala. You don't have to redo your salats. Even if you prayed your salats to show off, you don't have to. But what I'm saying is that jazba was there, that thought was there in his mind, right? So we should be there. It doesn't matter if I'm in the front, if I'm in the back. Wherever Allah needs me, He'll put me. Right? And this person, they don't care how they look. What will it look like if I'm the one that's serving the food? What will it look like, if I'm sweeping, if I'm cleaning the bathroom? What will people think if I'm doing that? That person isn't concerned. That's why Rasulullah said his hair is disheveled, his feet are dirty. One of my friends, he told me, he's a classmate of mine. He said that somebody came to get admission in his madrasa, and he's like his turban, it was not moving. It was suspended in air. He's like, how is this defying physics? He asked, what is this? He said, I put starch in it, right? Again, a person you have to spend 30 minutes looking at yourself in the mirror. My turban has to be like this. I know somebody, they blow dry their beard every day to make sure it sits just right. And then my wife's telling me why, I don't do that, right? You married me. You didn't marry that relative of mine. So you have to deal with it the way that it is. Now, what else about this person? If he seeks permission, or if he seeks some permission, lam yu'zal lahu. He's not given permission. وَإِن شَفَعَ, if he tries to intercede on somebody's behalf, lam yushaffa. His intercession won't be accepted. What it means is this person, he's not prominent. Nobody cares about this person. Nobody notices. But it's that person who, they're very blessed, right? Look, how many Sahaba were there? Give me a rough number. Yeah, around 125,000, 120, 125,000. How many Sahaba's names do we know? Do we have a list of all 125,000 Sahaba? I don't think we know more than 1 or 2,000 Sahaba's names. And really, if you think about the seerah, there's a few names that keep coming up, right? There's few names that keep coming up, and then there's a bunch of one-offs. One thing is famous about them, nothing else is known about their life, right? There's a Sahaba radiallahu. These are the people, they're the greatest generation. Nobody, no matter how big of a wali you are, will you be able to equal them. The Sahaba radiallahu anhu, right? Yet the vast majority of them, we don't even know their name. You don't have to be the most prominent person in the world in order to be beloved to Allah. There's many people who are famous and they're less beloved to Allah than somebody who's unknown. I always say, I can't speak about Imam Ihsan, I can speak about me. I can say that I know many people behind here praying behind me are more pious than me, right? I'll get the credit, but at the end of the day, your rank with Allah is probably higher than mine. That's fine, right? You don't have to be known to be beloved by Allah. You don't have to have a position to be beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What you have to do is whatever your job is. You have to figure out, this is my role. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. This is the ability that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me. Let me use that to serve the deen, right? I always say, when we were little, and I'll just end with this. When we were little, we were told, I don't know if it's true or not. I never seen any riwayat like this, but they used to tell us, every time you pick up a piece of trash in the masjid, you'll get a hur in Jannah. You'll get a wife in Jannah. They just tell us probably just so that we just do it. But nobody will have more wives in Jannah than Brother Abdullah and Manzoor Bhai, right? Right? They're never giving announcements. They're not but they have the status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And now Brother Talha and all of his team, they'll have all the hurs in Jannah due to all of the work that they're doing. Again, they might never ever have to give the announcement, they're not giving the azan, but they're beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us beloved to Him. No matter whether we're known, whether we're unknown, inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us beloved to Him. And I'll make dua for you guys as well. May Allah give you many hurs in Jannah as well. And now I'll get cancelled now. Assalamu alaikum.